Spike's New Brother Chapter 2 The Birthday of Sadness. Applejack couldn't believe the sight she was seeing. The only words that were running through her head were, "What in the Sam Hay is going on here?" "Spike! Spike!" Applejack screamed. "Calm down, honey. Get it together. Now, why would you say Twilight doesn't love you like a brother anymore? From the years I've known her, she always talks about you being her favorite brother. Maybe even more than Shining Armor," Applejack said, reassuring him. Spike managed to control himself while he dried up his tears, but he failed as soon as he couldn't stop hiccuping between sniffles. He did the best that he could, but he was still upset. "Well, lately she's been staying in the basement underneath the library until she has to eat or take a shower. However, when Twilight does this, she completely ignores me," Spike told Applejack as he felt depressed talking about it. And Applejack couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Yesterday, Twilight finally came out of the basement, and she hadn't eaten or slept in 4 days. So I decided to make Twilight her favorite sandwich while the works," he said. "Oh, my Celestia, Spike is the most nicest guy in the entire land of Equestria," Applejack thought while she blushed with a smile. "Oh, who am I kidding? If Twilight keeps treating him like this, then I will claim this little fellow for myself. Any pony would be honored to have a special sun pony like him. Kind, loving, will do anything for you and make sure your happiness comes first, even if it means giving up his happiness. If she keeps this up and doesn't treat Spike right soon, I'm gonna have to give her a buck in the face over and over, until she gets the point," Applejack thought as she had determination in her eyes. "What happened when you went to go make the sandwich? How'd it go?" Applejack asked. Spike only cringed at the thought. "Oh, no," Applejack said with worry in her face. "Spike, what happened, honey?" Spike only sighed and just continued. "She yelled at me and said..." Flashback. "Spike, I have no time for your games or food. With the elements of harmony gone, Equestria could be attacked at any moment. Plus, it's time for me to act like a princess, and it's time for you to butt out of official business that doesn't concern you. A dragon," Twilight told him with hate and resentment. And that's the end of the flashback. Upon hearing this, Applejack's jaw made a great attempt to just fall flat on the floor, while still attached to her face. Spike was amazed and shocked. He didn't expect so much reaction from Applejack upon hearing this. "Why would that good-for-nothing, high-and-mighty, stuck-up... You must not be talking about the same Twilight," Applejack responded with disbelief. "This Twilight's worse than Trixie on her best day and worst day. She's the nerve to talk to you like that? Oh, when I get my hooves on her, I'll teach her a lesson she won't soon forget. A 1,000 years worth." Now, if you were wondering what an angry cowgirl pony looked like, let's just say it's not really pretty, including at this point. This was scaring Spike, so he tried to calm Applejack down. Applejack, it's okay. She's just been studying so hard. She didn't mean to," Spike says as he tried to calm her down. Didn't mean it! Didn't mean it! Spike, I've known Twilight for at least 2 or 3 years now, and that's not how she usually talks to any pony. Now, I don't know what in the Sam Hay has gotten to her, but if she ever talking like that again when I'm in her earshot, you better hope Celestia and Luna are there to stop me," Applejack told him as she stomped her hoof down with a mighty thud. However, she realized that she was making Spike upset, so she tried to change the subject. "Despite all that's happened, I was wondering when your birthday is, and what you wanted me to get you. So, now that you have control over your greed, it won't be a problem to get you a present." Thanks, Applejack. Well, to tell you the truth, my birthday is today." "What? Spike, are you kidding me? It's tonight? I thought I had at least a week to prepare for your birthday, at least 4 days, but tonight?" Yeah, Spike said sheepishly, scratching the back of his head with his claw. "You see, I've been worried about Twilight that it kind of slipped my mind." "Oh, Buck, Twilight, you're causing a young dragon to be like this, to be worried about you for weeks on end," Applejack said with a low growling tone in her voice, but Applejack didn't want to upset Spike more than he already is, so she tried to get herself under control again and gave him a comforting smile, but her eyes said otherwise. Spike was fidgeting with his toes and his tail was twitching nervously as well. "You see, I was worried and stressed out with all the work at the library since Twilight was always studying," Spike explained. However, before he could finish, a belch came from his mouth and a letter popped out of his green flame. Applejack and Spike were taken back for a few seconds. "Spike, are you going to read that letter?" Applejack asked. "It's probably from Princess Celestia wanting to talk about your birthday." "Applejack, seriously?" Spike replied, looking at her with one eyebrow cocked up. You think the princess will remember my birthday even when Twilight couldn't? You really think she's got a big old party planned at the castle for me with all the works? Spike said with a sarcastic tone and voice, trying to have fun with her. Well, I'm glad to see you found your sense of humor back, Spike, said the cow pony with a smirk on her face. Go on now, read it. You never know. Spike only rolled his eyes to the side. Okay, I'll humor you a bit. Applejack chuckled and waited for him to read the letter. Spike cleared his throat and began to read with a formal tone as he always did when he got letters from Princess Celestia over the years. As he was reading the letter, Spike's eyes widened to the size of baseballs, and his jaw dropped slightly. Upon noticing this, Applejack busted out laughing. Let me guess, honey. It's your mother Celestia and she wants you to come to the castle to celebrate your birthday, Applejack said, trying to control her laughter. Spike only looked up at the letter to meet Applejack's eyes and shaking his head in disbelief. Well, asked the cow pony, nudging her hoof into Spike's side playfully. Read it. Spike shook his head to concentrate. Okay, jeez. Dear Spike, my beloved son, I do not know why you or Twilight didn't tell me or haven't written to me lately. However, I am more shocked to hear from a source, other than you or mostly Twilight, that today is your birthday. Now, if you think I wasn't going to celebrate my only son's birthday, the most important day of his life, then you are sadly wrong. I've noticed that many young and single mares have been keeping a great eye of interest to your growth spurt, which I'm glad to hear, by the way, and yes, my son, this type of gossip cannot get through me unnoticed. Back to my point. Now that they know that you're the proper age to marry, dragon-wise, and so you've become so handsome, so fast, that I'm surprised you haven't married yet. I hope with what I'm saying will help you in finding your special son pony. Marry them and make this princess a grandmother. Hint, hint. Spike blushed at that last comment of his adoptive mother. For the love of Equestria, even she is starting to think like this. Spike saw Applejack reading over his shoulder and, of course, giggling under her breath. What did I tell you a few minutes ago, Sugar Cube? You keep going at this rate and I might just get hitched to you and solve that little problem of hers, she said, looking at him with bedroom eyes. You're kidding me, right? Spike said, chuckling nervously. Right? Applejack? Applejack? I wonder, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I haven't decided yet, she said, this time with her eyes batting at Spike furiously. Spike's scales stood straight in an instant and his colors turned from purple to red as the sun, and all he could do was say this one word. What? But seriously, Spike, just continue the letter, Applejack told him. Spike shook his head, brushing off what Applejack just said, even if it was just a straight way of trying to cheer him up. Spike continued to read the letter. This cannot stand. As your mother and Princess of Equestria, I happily order you to come at 8 o'clock tonight to celebrate your birthday at the castle. Hope to see you and your sister Twilight soon. Love, your mother, Princess Celestia. P.S. I was not kidding about the marriage, Spike. You are grown up. Dragons at your age have already started to find mates. I also want to be a grandmother one day, and I mean soon, with many grandchildren. And I would love to hear the sounds of hoof prints to my soon-to-be grandchildren, or, in your case, claw prints. Love you. Bye. Oh, P.P.S. I would also love to be a great aunt, you know. Love your Aunt Luna. For the love of all Equestria, I can't believe them, Spike yelled as he face-palmed himself after he read that letter. Wait, how many do they know about my growth spurt? And... Spike's face turned bright red, so red that it would put a tomato to shame. All Spike could hear and see was Applejack rolling back and forth on her side, clenching her sides as she was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. And Spike only looked at her with an angry frown on his face. Oh, thanks, Applejack. You are so helpful right now, really, he mumbled under his breath while snapping his claws. Just at that moment, he heard a group of the girls' voice, one of them that he knew very well in a tomboy voice. Well, it's official. You have grown and became 50% more awesome, Rainbow Dash added with a huge grin on her face. Quickly turning his head around, he greeted them with a great big smile, as he hadn't really done in many days. He looked to see the rest of his friends already in the middle of the doorway, coming in one by one, all smiling like he had a big secret. Then it hit him. Applejack, he said in an evil, playful tone. You knew it was my birthday, didn't you? You've just been toying with me. Yes and no, Spike, replied Applejack, while turning her attention to Rainbow, with a little smirk on her face. Rainbow, you as well, Spike said as he looked up at the cyan-colored Pegasi with a rainbow-colored mane. You know it. As soon as she said that, she spun around so fast, she looked like a rainbow-colored tornado, and as quickly as she began, She stopped in a split second. Rainbow Dash was just showing off her speed, which she was so proud of.
Come on, big guy, who could forget your birthday?
Rainbow Dash told him.
I second that, darling,
Rarity added. Upon hearing her voice, Spike's smile turned into a love-struck grin. His eyes, especially his pupils, transformed into the shape of hearts when he saw it was Rarity, the white unicorn with her purple mane bouncing as she came trotting towards him. She did the one thing he waited so long for but never thought would come. He had given upon the idea long ago, as well as his crush on her, but it really happened. She trotted right up to him and kissed him on the lips. Upon doing this, the rest of the main five gasped.
Oh, my...
Spike heard from the distance. He looked around and saw there was a quiet and soft-toned voice coming from somewhere, and that would be Fluttershy, the yellow-colored Pegasus with her pink mane covering one side of her face. Spike also saw that she blushed really hard, so you can see it through her pink mane. She fidgeted a little before going towards him and also kissed him on the lips. Well, to be fair, she forced herself on him, and that got even bigger gasps from all the other girls, because Fluttershy is usually so shy. They thought she wouldn't make a move. Well, with that caught Applejack's attention, and something fierce grew inside of her.
Hold on now, you ain't getting ahead of me,
she said in a shocked tone. And within a quick motion, she jumped from the floor, raced over to Spike, and planted a kiss of her own on the young dragon.
Hey, don't forget about me,
said a hyperactive tone. Spike knew who it was already, almost immediately.
Pinkie!
Before he could even finish, a pink blur rushed towards him, tackled him to the ground, and he felt the sunny warmth in place of a power pink lip meeting his. And when the kiss was over, he sat up quickly.
You too, Pinkie Pie?
Spike said with a shocked look on his face. Pinkie Pie was a pink-colored pony that was very hyperactive and one of the happiest ponies in Equestria. You couldn't just stop her from being happy and laughing. It was her goal, to make other ponies feel and be better about themselves and just with a laugh and just have fun. And most of all, she loved throwing parties. Did I forget to mention she was very hyperactive? Oh well. Pinkie Pie bounced all around Spike numerous times, talking so fast he can barely understand what the hey she was saying. What always shocked the young dragon was how does she keep talking so quickly and so much time without having to breathe.
Oh, Spiky Bear, of course I'm here. After all, how can I be the queen of parties if I forget one of my dearest, most handsomest friends' birthday party?
She said with so much excitement.
Did I mention that you're really handsome?
Spike only looked at the pink pony in confusion, then in shock. Spike looked towards Rainbow Dash, the only one that hasn't stolen a kiss from him. Well, at least I know she won't do that. Rainbow isn't one to do romantic stuff because she doesn't want to lose her swagger. Spike thought, but then thought wrong. Rainbow Dash grew a smirk on her face, then it turned into an evil grin. Yet, not evil, just playful evil.
You think my swagger's gonna keep me from doing what you think I'm not gonna do? Then you thought wrong, buddy!
Just as Rainbow Dash moved so fast, in a blink of an eye, she wrapped her hooves around Spike.
It comes,
she said with a big smirk on her face. Rainbow Dash planted the biggest, most passionate kiss of all. It was so good, Rainbow Dash lifted herself and Spike up to the air. And after a few seconds, she broke the embrace, settled herself down, and Spike down to the ground. Spike had lost his balance because of the shock of the kiss, and just sat on the floor of the library. Looking at the main five as he did, he opened and closed his mouth, raising his finger as if he was trying to say something. But Spike was so shocked he just couldn't say anything, until he finally got up and brushed himself off, chuckling. Well, I am officially confused, shocked, and embarrassed all at the same time. Also, there's something I want to ask all of you. Now, what was it? Oh yeah. What in the name of Equestria is going on around here? What's with the Loverfest? Spike yelled in confusion. Spike looked at all the girls and noticed that they were blushing at the sight of him. This, of course, made Spike even more nervous, as he was about to do what any guy would do in this situation, run for the hills. And that is until he heard a voice he had known all too well. A voice come with compassion that he'd known for when he was just a hatchling. Calm down, my son, Celestia said in a gentle tone. I can explain everything. Spike quickly turned around. Mother? What are you doing here? The letter said... She rubbed the top of his head and giggled. I know what I wrote, said Princess Celestia. But that was just a little prank I kept to keep you occupied with Applejack while I got the girls together so we can have the party here. Moreover, I've heard some disturbing news about a student of mine by the name of Twilight treating you wrong, she said, changing her tone and voice from a playful mother to a serious princess in command. However, before I get ahead of myself, in the words of Pinkie, let's get this party started. Then her horn glowed a bright yellow aura, and in an instant, the library was covered with party decorations and streamers with a punch bowl and a giant diamond-covered cake with the words written, "Happy Birthday, Spike." And at that moment, Pinkie Pie turned around towards the front door and said,
"Okay, every pony come on in."
Guests started entering the main door of the library by the dozens. Spike's jaw once again nearly dropped to the ground, and Spike felt tears from his eyes as he smiled at the girls.
Thank you all so much. Come now, don't forget about me, thou loving aunt,
said no other than Princess Luna, Princess of the Night.
Happy birthday, Spike.
Spike began to wipe the tears from his eyes as best as he could, but failed as he ran to the maiden five, as well as his family, to hug them all. Celestia and Luna blushed as a mother and an aunt. They felt the love coming from a son and a nephew. They looked at each other and just smiled. Then, Spike went to hug 5 of the main 6, which after doing so all had major blushes on their face. But Celestia's expression turned back into a serious one.
Spike, I have been hearing some nasty rumors about how Twilight has been mistreating you. Though, I find this hard to believe, but I must hear this from you, Spike.
However, this soon was to be interrupted by a door slamming shut behind everyone. The princesses and the others turned around to see who it was, and it was none other than Twilight Sparkle. And Twilight was shocked to see her mentor and Princess Luna were at the library at this time at night. However, she used her magic to fix herself up and went over to Princess Celestia, and the others not even paying attention to Spike. The others noticed this and did not like where this was going.
Princess Celestia, what are you doing here?
Twilight asked. And before she could say anything, Twilight interrupted her with something urgent.
Never mind. I need to talk about something important. I've been studying lately and I'm really concerned about the future of Equestria. Now that the elements of how many are stuck in the tree...
Celestia had one eyebrow cocked up with a bit of shock. And Luna also had the same expression on her face as well. And then Celestia turned back to Twilight.
Twilight?
She said in a confused tone.
You do realize why we are here, right? It's about Spike.
Celestia said in a playful tone and excited tone. However, Twilight didn't take it as such and believed Spike had done something wrong, and with it, she lost it. She quickly turned and walked towards Spike, and he tried to say hi, Twilight, but before he could even get one word out, she slapped him across the face. When in that moment happened, the party music that was playing in the background stopped. Every pony in the library turned around and gasped at the scene, including 5 of Twilight's closest friends and the 2 princesses. They all gasped in horror and shock at what Twilight had just done, but what she was about to say would change everything between her and Spike forever.
Spike, what is going on here?
Twilight yelled in anger.
I've been trying to find new ways to protect Equestria. Now that we don't have the elements of harmony anymore, and you decide to throw a party without my permission? What were you thinking? All you do is play around all day.
That last remark made something snap inside of Spike. He couldn't believe what she just said. Not only she had been neglecting him for days on end, but she was treating him like a slave. After all the things he did for her, dust out the books, swept the floor, cooked the meals and organized the books on the shelves. So the one day of this year when he has the right to enjoy his birthday, the day he was born, Spike cannot have it without her permission. If it were left up to her, she would even know it was his birthday a few months later for all he knew. And this was the final straw. That just sent Spike over the edge. Flames came from Spike's nostrils, and in a split second, Twilight was taken back as Spike stomped his way over to her, got right in her face, and calmly but firmly said,
Now listen here, you arrogant, stuck-up, slave-driving pony. Over the last few weeks, you've been studying and studying for nights on end. And for what? Some big threat that's probably not coming? Moreover, no, I have not been playing all day for the past 5 weeks. I have been cooking, cleaning, and doing most of your work like I have these last few months, making sure when some pony checks out a book, they return it on time, and the usual chores I ensured for the last few weeks for this library have been ending up and running as I should. I should have been like an average teenager and hung out with his friends, being outside enjoying life with the Cutie Mark Crusaders and my family. But no, I wasted my time making sure you were fine, that you had food in your belly, that I made sure you were washed, and it was not fun for me, trust me. But what I did in those 5 weeks, nothing but being ridiculed and lots of yelling. And let's talk about the upcoming danger that is supposedly coming. What danger are you talking about? I mean, look, Discord is a good guy now, and sure, he causes some chaos, but the fun kind. Equestria is safe. Sure, you and the others no longer have the elements of harmony, but you guys are just as strong without them, and you are with them.
Every pony in the room were shocked at the way Spike was standing his ground.
All I've done is try to be the best assistant and brother to you, but you won't even let me be that. But this needs to stop.
Spike told her with sorrow in his voice.
You want to know why every pony is here? Well, it's simple. It's my birthday today. Did you even remember that? I remembered everything you wanted me to remember, yet you can't make time out of your busy schedule to remember my birthday? Your brother's birthday. Is that so much to ask? What happened to you, Twilight? When we came back from a little adventure in the human world, you were just fine. The last few months, you were completely turned into a paranoid maniac, trying to prepare for some great danger that's never going to come. I don't know where my sister Twilight Sparkle is, but I will say this. You're not her. You've changed, and it scares me. Do you at least think of me as your family? At least an assistant? Or has that just gone out the window?
Spike only looked at her, waiting for a response, but the response he heard hurt him to his core and soul.
That's what this is about?
Twilight replied, sounding as if she heard a stupid question.
Your silly birthday. Equestria's future is possibly endangered now that the elements are no longer with us. Moreover, you're worried about a silly little birthday party. And no, you're not my brother. How could you be? You're a bloodthirsty dragon that will one day grow up and become a mindless beast. If you feel so unappreciated, then you could find somewhere else to live. You're no longer welcome here, dragon. Get out of my house and life!
Twilight yelled with so much hate and just disgust. There was nothing but shock in the room. Princess Celestia, Luna, and Applejack, and Pinkie Pie, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, and Fluttershy they just couldn't believe what they'd heard. And from whom it was said, and even more so to whom she was saying it to.
Twilight, how dare you talk to your little brother like that?
She turned around in shock to see her mother and father staring at her with disgusted, horrifying looks, upon their faces not believing that this pony was their own flesh and blood. Even after what she'd said to the dragon that they'd adopted as their own child.
Twilight, how dare you talk to your little brother like that?
She turned around in shock to see her mother and father staring at her with disgusted, horrifying looks upon their faces, not believing that this pony was their own flesh and blood, even after what she'd said to the dragon they had adopted as their own child.
Twilight, what in the world has gotten into you? You can't be my little sister. She would never say that to a family member ever, or even treat them like that. What has gotten into you?
She drew her attention at the front door of the library, and there stood her big brother's shining armor. He used his magic to keep the present he got for Spike in midair, but dropped it when he heard those horrible words come from his little sister. He closed his eyes and lowered his head, but when he opened them again, they were filled with rage and hate, something he never felt before.
I know one thing's for sure, and I'm going to find out. Come here now!
Shining Armor screamed. Shining walked over to Twilight slowly but cautiously. He didn't know this Twilight Sparkle, so he wasn't taking any chances with her. As captain of the Royal Guard, his instincts kicked in, and he didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that he had to use his training, even if he had to use it against his own flesh and blood. But then again, he never thought his own flesh and blood would treat another member of the family, especially Spike, with such disrespect and hatred.
Brother, this has nothing to do with you. I'm warning you,
Twilight said as she stepped back with fear. But he didn't pay no mind. He wanted to know what was going on, and out of fear, Twilight shot a magic bolt at him, strong enough to hurt him, but enough for him to get away. Shining Armor, however, was the strongest magical unicorn in the entire guard, and countered it with a magical bolt of his own. The two magics collided, but he was stronger, mostly built for combat, unlike his sister, who was mostly for study, and rarely used it for combat. Thus his magic overpowered hers and hit her head on, knocking her to the ground. While on the floor, Twilight's body glowed a dark aura, and a few seconds later the black aura disappeared, leaving her a little disorientated. Twilight rubbed the back of her head with a hoof and got back up and looked at her brother. When she did, she was shocked and horrified to see the angriest look on his face. She'd never seen him that way before, but then she shook her head and looked around to see every pony that was in the room, but all she saw were horrified and disgusting looks on every pony's face.
Wait, brother? Mom? Dad? Princess Celestia? Princess Luna? Every pony in Ponyville? What's going on? What's today? Where's Spike?
Twilight asked. Just then a terrifying realization came to Twilight, and with a sharp pain her head was jogging her memory from the past few weeks, including to what she had done tonight. Twilight had tears forming in her eyes, so much that they looked like they were about to turn into tears of blood. She had just realized what she had done to the most caring being she had ever known. Some pony who was with her through thick and thin. Even more so, he put his life on the line to save an empire of ponies from certain doom. And he was a dragon. He was always at her side when others weren't, and she looked around at every pony and then noticed the very same young little dragon, but to her surprise, not little anymore. In fact, he had gone through a growth spurt, and this upset Twilight very much, whatever spell she did, which was supposed to help Spike's birthday had backfired big time. She hoped and prayed that she didn't hurt him, but alas, she did. However, Twilight didn't waste any time as she raced towards Spike, who had walked into a corner and remained there, back basically all he had heard from her. The pony who had thought he could trust more than his mother Celestia. There he stood to the far left corner of the room, his head lowered down, not making a sound. She tried to plead, beg, whatever she could do to make it up to Spike. What have I done? Twilight began to tear up with her eyes.
Spike, these last few weeks, I didn't mean, I never meant...
Shut the hell up, you sorry, good-for-nothing, ungrateful piece of filth, Spike yelled at the top of his lungs.
I had never known, throughout my life, some pony who could be so arrogant, and I have met a good many, and here I thought you were my sister.
Spike's aura turned pure black as night, forcing Twilight to back up from him dramatically and fearfully. She had never seen her little brother like this, and all she wanted to do and know at this point is what she had to say or do in the state of mind for him to be like this. But she got her answer.
So, I'm nothing but a mindless beast? Not your brother? Not even your #1 assistant? So basically, I was a slave to you, and now, you're high mighty princess. You don't need me anymore? Then guess what? I don't need you either. I don't want to see you again for as long as Equestria would let me live.
Hearing this, Twilight's heart sank to the deepest, darkest pits of her soul. The memories from weeks before tonight slowly came to a sharp pain in her head. All the moments of Spike breaking his back to make sure Twilight had everything she needed while she studied, only to have him treated like a slave and ignoring him. Yelling at him, not even to thank him for all the things he did while she was in the state of mind. Then the most shocking weatherization came to her when she was horribly remembering every single word. Every single sentence. How she ruined his birthday, how she acted, calling him nothing but a mindless beast, a creature that had no place in her life. She had disowned him in front of every pony in Equestria. She pondered on how she was able to break the state of mind, and that's when she realized it. It was a basic case of a reality check from her brother's shining armor and his magic spell.
What have I done?
Twilight said as she covered her mouth with a hoof, while fresh hot tears were falling from her face.
Spike, please listen,
Shut your damn mouth now! Spike replied with an almighty roar of Spike's adoptive mother and father. The princess's shining armor and every pony was shocked. As he continued, he began clenching his fist. His claws gripping so hard, blood started to trickle down.
As of this day, Twilight, you are no longer my friend or family, you stupid horse. Goodbye. But I know I loved you, Twilight. By Equestria's soul, I loved you.
Without missing a beat, Spike ran through the door on all fours, running as fast as he could at the speed that matched Rainbow Dash on her best day. At that moment, every pony knew, especially Twilight, that long life of family and friendship might have been destroyed in one singular night.